The next morning, Dante awoke to Emma standing over him, staring. "Whoa," he yelled as he jumped up. "You can't do that to people." "Sorry," she apologized. "I wasn't sure how to wake you." A tap on the shoulder would have been just fine. Dante sat up on the couch and started to rub his neck. "May I?" she asked. "Why not?" said Dante, as he turned slightly. Emma sat down and massaged his neck. Her hands were magical. "You know, you're not half bad at that." "Finally. Something I'm good at," she sighed. Dante could tell she was feeling down. He couldn't imagine how frustrated it must be for her to wake up with no memory and feel like everything you were doing was wrong. "You must be hungry." Her stomach growled and she quickly grabbed it. "Shh." Dante smiled. "It's all right. Mine was making the same noise earlier. Let's go grab some grub." The day was dark and foggy. They walked back down to the diner and had a seat. "Is a milkshake okay for breakfast?" she asked quietly across the table. "Sweetheart, a milkshake is okay any time in my book, but you may want to eat actual food too." He ordered them each a strawberry milkshake and a sampler platter with eggs, bacon, sausage, and 3 pancakes. Dante was impressed. Emma's appetite matched his own. On their way back to his shop, she let out a really loud burp. She clasped her hands around her mouth in shock. "Sorry," she said, embarrassed. Dante laughed and let out a burp of his own. "You're going to have to top that." Emma smiled. When they got back to his shop, she stood around in the lobby. "So, what do we do now?" she asked. "Usually I just sit around, enjoy some music, play with a few of my toys." He took a seat at his desk and started spinning his guns around. "Can I pick a song?" she asked. "Be my guest." Emma looked at the list of songs in the jukebox and chose one to play. Dante was surprised. It was one of his favorites. "I love this song," she said as she started dancing around. Dante laughed. "Are you sure you've heard this before?" "Yeah, but I don't remember where. Maybe a movie?" She stopped dancing for a moment. "It's weird. I feel like I remember so much, but it all seems so strange and new at the same time." A guitar solo kicks in and her eyes light up as she breaks into an air guitar of her own. She was actually pretty entertaining to have around, but he also knew that the demon he found in the alley was there because of her. Was she the pureblood he was talking about? Were the demons out to get her? Dante walked over to the pool table and racked up. Emma turned just as Dante tossed her a pool stick. "How about a friendly game of pool? You can have the first shot." He placed the cue ball on the table, and Emma eyed the colorful triangle across from it. She leaned over, took aim, and landed 3 on the break. "Well now, looks like I have a worthy challenger," smiled Dante. They played 4 games, only one of which Dante won. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "Maybe you're unlucky?" pointed out Emma. Must be my shoulder from sleeping on the couch," replied Dante, not willing to admit defeat. Later that evening, Dante ordered a large pizza again, everything except olive, like always. Of course, his pizza once again was delivered with olives. "I need you to wait here," he told Emma. "They brought the wrong pizza again, and I'm gonna have to tear Fonzo a new one." Emma nodded her head and sat at his desk. "I'll be back in 10 minutes, he said as he stormed out of the shop. When he returned, Emma was still at the desk, spinning in his chair. Dante placed 2 pizzas down and a 6-pack of beer on his desk. Emma stood up to return his chair and toppled over dizzily. Dante reached out to catch her and pulled her back up against his chest. "You okay?" he asked, amused. Yes, she said, pulling her hair back behind her ear. How long have you been spinning? He asked. She looked at the clock. 5 minutes. He laughed again. Emma looked up at Dante. His eyes were an icy blue color. She wasn't sure why, but she felt hot and wanted to kiss him, but felt it was not appropriate. He let her go, and she held onto the desk until she was sure she could balance on her own. When Lady made it back to the shop, the pizza was gone along with the beer. Emma was sitting on the desk laughing as Dante showed off his trickster skills with his pistols. Looks like you two are getting along better than expected, says Lady. Lady, you're just in time for Dante's grand finale, said Emma excitedly. Lucky me, she replied sarcastically as she walked over to the desk. Pull, yelled Dante. Emma threw a handful of the 6 beer bottle caps into the air, and Dante put a bullet in the center of each one. Emma clapped and took another swig of her beer. Beer and pizza? Really? Questioned Lady. What? It's not like you left me any babysitting money. Would you give a baby beer? She questioned. Dante shrugged. That depends. But she's a grown woman. With the mental capacity of a 5-year-old, she whispered. Oh yeah? Why don't you say that to her face? There's no need, interrupted Emma. My hearing is a lot better than my memory. I'm sorry, apologized Lady. I didn't mean to say it like that. I just don't think alcohol is the best choice for you to be drinking when you're trying to regain your memory is all. I think it's getting late. Good night, said Emma as she ascended the stairs. She's actually been thinking a little more clearly than she was last night. Her mind is just a little scattered. Lady sighed. Has she remembered anything about where she came from? Nope, but I'm sure there's a reason for that. The demon I killed in the alley the other night mentioned something about a pure blood and a shared blood. Lady pondered the meaning of the two. Pure blood. Shared blood. What if... She stopped for a moment. The tower. Nah, blew off Dante. Temeningru has been underground for centuries. There isn't a demon worshipper alive strong enough to raise it. Not with all the blood in my body. Dante tossed the empty beer bottles into the trash along with the empty pizza boxes. Temeningru was a tower used to open a portal from the human world to the demon world. It was used to close the portal by his father and a priestess centuries ago. So when is she moving in with you? Lady laughed. Fat chance. I think she's safer with you now that we know that demons are after her. Once we figure it all out, we can see about finding her some more convenient housing. I'll check back in tomorrow. I'm going to go home and see if I can find anything else out about this blood mess. As quickly as she left, Dante heard the door open. Forget something? He asked. His back was turned towards the door. He heard a man clear his throat and turned. Before him stood a tall, pale, and lanky man with a bald head, eyes that looked slightly shocked, and a large scar on the side of his face. Hospital's another 3 blocks east, although if you're trying to find your way back to the morgue, you're going to need to head west. My name is Arkham, and I came with a message for you, young man. Dante sat with his back against his desk. You're not from the bank, are you? 'Cause I don't get paid until next week. The man handed him a small envelope and headed back outside. An invitation. I do hope you'll attend. Dante watched as the creepy man left and then walked over to the door to lock it. He opened the envelope to find a note. It's been a long time. I look forward to seeing you. Virgil. Dante threw the letter in the trash and heard a loud thump from upstairs. He made his way up and knocked before entering his room. Come in, said Emma. Is everything all right? He asked upon entering. Yes, I was just stumbling in the dark trying to get in bed. Beer makes me feel funny, she said as she sat down on the bed, her white t-shirt dangling down to her thighs. Dante walked into the room and peeked out the window before closing the curtains. I'm sorry if my being here is an inconvenience, she said timidly. Dante walked back around the bed and put his hand on her shoulder. It's cool. I've had worse house guests. His casual demeanor made Emma feel more at ease. She stood to her feet and impulsively kissed him. Her actions threw him off momentarily. He kissed her back and pulled her tightly against himself. Emma wasn't sure what she was getting herself into, but she couldn't fight the urge. She wrapped her arms around his neck as their kiss became more intimate. Dante laid her on the bed and ran his hand up her thigh while propping himself up with the other, kissing her neck and sending a chill through her body. He wasn't the kind of guy to turn down a beautiful woman, but he became apprehensive. His kisses slowed and his hands stopped exploring. Is something wrong? She asked. You've been drinking, and I just don't know if now is a good time for this. Oh, she said, slightly disappointed as she sat up on her elbows. Believe me when I say this is a first for me. You mean you've never... He laughed. Sweetheart, I've soothed the desires of plenty of women. This is just the first time I've felt the timing is wrong. He lifted her chin with his hand and kissed her one more time. To be continued. He smiled. Emma slid under the covers and Dante exited the room, his erection throbbing, and headed straight to the bathroom for a cold shower. Dante was fast asleep when he felt the first tremor. He blew it off as a truck passing by. The building was old, and the foundation often rattled when large trucks drove through. The second tremor was much more powerful, and Dante jumped to his feet. What the hell? He ran upstairs to check on Emma. The room was empty. She was gone. He heard the sound of the bell on his shop door ring as the door was blown open. Downstairs walked in 4 demons, hunchbacked and drooling, while sniffing and pacing the floor. He jumped down from the landing and crushed one, sending up a cloud of ash as it disintegrated. Shop's closed. Why don't you come back tomorrow? He said, as they began to hiss at him. Dante quickly fended off the other 3 intruders before grabbing his red leather coat and weapons and heading outside. At the center of the city rose a large tower, Temenengru. Above it, faintly made out, was his twin brother, Virgil. Well, 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 brother, said Virgil to himself. My, how you've grown. Dante made his way towards the tower. He was sure that's where he would find Emma. The streets were dark, illuminated only by the moonlight. Several demons could be seen in the shadows seething for a piece of him, but only a few tried their luck against the demon hunter, failing in the process. When he reached the door to the tower, he tried to push it open, but it was firmly locked. Uh-oh, forget your key, said a voice from behind him. Dante turned to find no one. Yoo-hoo! Up here, devil boy. Dante looked up and saw a clown-like demon standing on the side of the castle looking down at him. The clown flipped down from the wall and landed next to him. The name is Jester, he said, bowing. But when he raised his head, he found Dante pointing one of his pistols at his face. Oh boy, said the clown, as his pale white face, neon purple eyes, and court jester attire. Think you can help me? Or should I just blow your brains across the steps? I am but a friendly jester, here to help you, says Jester. The clown swallows deeply before making his way up the steps to the tower to the door. This tower is full of surprises, you know. He jumps onto an engraved stone slab, which turned out to be a pressure plate. Gears began to turn on the other side of the door, and Dante walks up to find it unlocked. "Thanks," he says as he walks inside. "Happy to help," yells the jester with a sinister smile. The tower was full of challenging obstacles and demons that were sure to test Dante as he made his way to the top to confront his brother, Virgil. Emma wandered down a long corridor in the tower. She didn't know where she was going, just that she was drawn to something deep inside. As she made her way down the hall, she noticed the strange stone statues that lined the wall. They were human-like, yet misshapen and eerie. Emma noticed a large door at the end of the hall before hearing a crumbling sound behind her. She turned to find nothing. She walked a little further, and the uneasy feeling of being watched overcame her. Emma turned to find all the statues facing her. Fear set in as she ran as fast as she could down the hall to the door, catching a glimpse of the sculptures in pursuit of her just as she closed the door, hoping they wouldn't attempt to get in. The room was dark and cold. A rattle of a chain could be heard behind her. She felt a small lever on the wall beside her and pulled it. Flames illuminated small sculpt fixtures in the room as she stood face to face with a three-headed hellhound. Drool dripped from its snarling lips as she looked into its fiery eyes. It sniffed her for a moment before taking a step back. Emma slid alongside the wall to another door, the dog eyeing her movements. She opened the second door and slid out of the narrow opening. Lady had found her way into the castle just before Dante. She knew in her gut that what the demon had mentioned to Dante about the pure and shared blood had something to do with the tower, and once it had shown itself, she set off to stop whatever evil was at work to undo the barrier between the two worlds. The door Emma had escaped the hellhound through led to another hallway, shorter than the previous. She caught a glimpse of a man with silver hair exiting into one of the side rooms. "Dante?" she wondered. "Dante!" she called, hoping he would hear her and they could find their way out of the tower. Emma didn't even know why she had come. She went through the door and found herself in the most bizarre room. It was full of mirrors. Mirrors, she soon discovered, that disoriented her as she tried to escape the room. "Dante?" she called out again. "Where did you go?" "Looking for me?" said a voice. Emma turned to quickly see an image of Dante disappear from the mirror. "Dante, stop! I'm scared. I don't even know what I'm doing here." "If you knew what you were, you'd realize there's nothing to fear," said the voice. Emma turned around in circles, trying to find out where the voice was coming from, bumping into more mirrors, leading to dead ends. "Stop it!" she yelled. "Stop it!" before turning and throwing her fist against a mirror. The pieces fell to the ground, and behind it stood the silver-haired man. "You're not Dante." "Definitely not," said Virgil as he approached her.